High West whiskey for the review.
Yeah.
Ooh. It tastes like hell. Like hell itself.
Today, in the first public screening I've been in a long time, we saw Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny in a packed house to roaring audience apathy.
It's a couple chuckles from the old people.
Roaring audience apathy. Connor, what is the plot of Indiana Jones, Dial of Destiny, and the Dial of Destiny?
Indiana Jones is back after his 15-year hiatus, 13-year hiatus, whatever. Been a fucking long time since Crystal Skull came out at this point. Indy is now older than before, and him and Marion their marriage is over because their son Mutt died in Vietnam. This leads Indy to 50 years ago or 40 years ago or whatever, and we reflect upon the time he ran into Mads Mikkelsen. And Mads Mikkelsen was going for the Dial of Destiny because he could then teleport through time and become the Hitler of Hitlers, and teams up with Phoebe Waller-Bridges, whatever her name is, and she's like, I'm your goddaughter, Indy, because Shia LaBeouf didn't want to come back. So I'm just female Shia LaBeouf.
But yes.
They were too nervous to ask him. So they didn't. And, yeah, Indy pucks along through various set pieces. Mostly he's just kind of there while other shit happens around him. And then he teleports through time.
There's a lot of vehicle-based action in this movie.
Yeah, because it's easier to do with CGI and you don't have to have Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford can still be a real good driver at 80. It doesn't mean he can beat dudes up anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's basically the plot. Except imagine that stretched into 2.5 hours. So Aiden, what did you think of Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny?
Oh, we got a real stinker on our hands. It's just fundamentally fucked, I think. I don't think every idea this movie has is bad. I like Mads Mikkelsen as the Nazi. I think it's weird that a movie set in the late 60s is about Nazis, because that's the iconic Indiana Jones thing. Even though it doesn't, wasn't really a lot of neo-Nazis in 1968 America, but sure, that's what they have to do.
They could have done Indiana Jones fights the Klan.
You could have just fought the Russians again. That's what George did last time.
Sure.
Or the Klan. The Klan would be funny, but I don't know what kind of historical artifacts the Klan would be digging up.
Oh God, I don't want to know. The Grand Wizard needs the slave master's whip, and you can kind of tie it in. Like at one point, Indy gets the whip.
Oh yeah.
He whips the whiteys.
The Ku Klux Klan is going to go back in time to assassinate Abraham Lincoln.
Oh sure.
But when they get there, they find out he was already assassinated.
Yeah, right. Because they're like uneducated and shit, so they just didn't know. They didn't realize that was something that already happened.
Yeah, the train action scene is like hypothetically neat, but there's like scary CGI Harrison Ford Monster Man with old man Harrison Ford's voice, and he runs around a train, a cartoon train on a cartoon background. Little cartoon Harrison Ford does cartoon things.
I will say, because I don't think I have much to comment on in this scene, his voice is less distracting than old man Mark Hamill or robot Mark Hamill or whatever that
yeah,
did.
it's not even. I would take this kind of old sounding performance over AI Mark Hamill from goddamn Mandalorian any day. That was awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I Indiana Jones isn't really a character, or not much of one. In the first 3 movies, he's just Action Man, and he might as well have just been a different character in all those movies. Because he's a cool guy who goes to cool places and has sex with hot women and fights evil people. And they should have just... It was always like... Steven Spielberg made Indiana Jones because they told him only British people could make James Bond, so he just made his own James Bond with like an archaeology twist on it.
And George Lucas was like, I like westerns. I like
Aliens.
aliens. I like
Yeah, George does like his
I like
aliens.
my cereals, my 1930s cereals. So let's make a tough, gruff adventure guy.
Yeah, and they did, and it
was
worked.
perfect to play tough, gruff adventure guy. The guy I already had as tough, gruff adventure guy.
yeah. But the Indiana Jones never should have gotten old like James Bond. He should have stayed a young, attractive man who goes on cool adventures to cool places and has sex with hot women,
Right.
like the James Bond movies do. And by trying to inject the character into him of being old, you just get a movie where an old guy is like, my son died in Vietnam, my wife left me, I just want to be dead, I'm in pain.
He's grumpy and sad, like
he's
Han
sad.
Solo.
Yeah, it's the exact same thing that happened to Han Solo in Disney's thing. I don't get why they had to make Indy sad in this one. Like, it's already bad enough that they made him old, instead of just recasting him and just making a cool adventure movie with cool action. But, like, why does he have to be sad and old and Marion left him because Mutt died in Vietnam? They could have just made it, like...
No, she left him because he was sad.
Yeah, because
Depressed.
Mutt died in Vietnam. Off
Became a
camera.
pick me, as the kids say. He has depression, dude.
Why? It's not fun. This isn't a fun adventure movie. This is a boring movie about a sad old man who watches other people do action adventure stuff occasionally. It's lame. It's boring. And Kingdom of the Crystal Skull had the same problem, but Harrison Ford was moderately younger and could kind of do things sometimes.
And also, like, in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, he's, like, having fun, you know?
Yeah.
He's gruff, older action man.
He's got the old gang back together.
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, especially with how it ended, where he gets married to Marion, should have just been it, and then you reboot.
Yep.
I know Hollywood's afraid of reboots, because they're like, everyone thinks our reboots are bad.
Stop making bad reboots, make a good reboot.
Make a good
Simple
reboot.
as.
Even in, like, the 1920s and 30s, like, you know, you have, like, fucking Ten Commandments, a classic movie, and then they're like, well, let's just redo Ten Commandments. I'm not saying redo, like, Raiders,
Liked it the first time.
but then look at, like, James Bond, for example.
This should have just been a James Bond scenario.
You know, Roger Moore hits, like, 65, and they're like, alright, bro, get out of here. Roger Moore ended the James Bond role about the same time Crystal Skull happened. And then they replaced him with Timothy Dalton, who was like 35, 40. So you probably could have just done the same shit after Crystal Skull.
Yeah, you could have just kept rolling.
And it can all still be canon. Crystal Skull can be the natural conclusion to the canon, but, you know, you have fucking Army Hammer. Just pick somebody.
The cannibal.
Somebody from 2008, who they would have hired in 2008 to play Indiana Jones. You're saying
Yeah.
Army Hammer wouldn't have been a possibility?
Henry Cavill.
Take Army Hammer. Take Army Hammer and make him Indiana Jones. I mean, nowadays you'd probably just pick fucking...
Henry Cavill.
Yeah, Idris Elba.
Yeah. The resemblance is uncanny.
That's just making fun of James Bond castings.
I know. But yeah, I don't know. There's a couple neat ideas. I think the ending is really weird, the time travel
Right.
thing. Even for this series, it's weird. And, you know, like...
Hey man,
I'm not
Indiana Jones saw aliens in the last one.
I mean, yeah, he did see aliens, but he didn't go back in time to 256 BC and meet Archimedes and give him a wristwatch and tell him you someday you're gonna be the greatest man alive and invent a magic box that lets you fly a plane into a portal to shoot Romans with machine guns.
Very specifically to go back in time to the siege, the Roman siege of whatever.
Yeah, the box of Archimedes can only go to one place to shoot all the Romans and then go back. And
Time travel's it's its own contraption there.
Archimedes really thought ahead. He's like, yeah, I don't know, the woman who, what's her name, Badger or something?
I don't remember.
Wedge?
I think I fell asleep every time they mentioned her name.
He calls her some stupid name that they're trying to get to catch on. She's okay. Little unibrow short round. Probably shouldn't have been in the movie.
Short round with a mustache.
Yeah, little unibrow short round. I like Mads Mikkelsen. I think he's funny. I don't know what he's going for. He does seem kind of drunk in this movie, which is a frequent Mads Mikkelsen doesn't care performance when he shows up to set drunk every time. His goons kind of just don't do anything. And like, there's this really big one that the movie always focuses on, and you think that's like the big guy that gets put in the plane, and then the kid just drowns in a little short round with a unibrow.
Right.
CJ nightmare, long, boring, sad, depressing. I don't know why all the old people have to be sad and depressing. Why couldn't he be a fun old person? Yeah, it's dry, man. It's dry. This is probably the most boring action adventure movie ever made. They chase each other around in tuk-tuks. They roll around in tuk-tuks. The train scene is kind of cool, even if it's a cartoon. And I guess like the part in the plane at the end is kind of cool. And then there's a lot of just like Indiana Jones driving in cartoon cars. So yeah, I don't know. It's I don't know who this is made for. Is my ultimate conclusion. Anyway, Connor, what'd you think about the Dial of Destiny?
I thought it was going to be worse. I mean, it was well directed, but like the cinematography was good, and the performances were decent, and I think my biggest problem with it is the fact that the 27 writers just couldn't figure out like anything, and Disney was too scared to reboot it. Because I thought years ago, and my memory could be wrong, or it could have just been bullshit rumors I read, but I thought they were going to do like a recast of Indy or something like that, which is kind of what we've already suggested.
Yeah.
And people were all butthurt about it. But it's like, this is what you get when you're butthurt about it, because they're going to do a new Indiana Jones. So
you either get the sad old man, or you get something new.
Right, and they can't think of what to do. These are pulp heroes, not fucking... Like, you have, like, Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, and fucking Indiana Jones. Why do they all become sad old guys? What's Lucasfilm's fetish with that? To add conflict or something, but... Like, you look at these movies, and that, like, the original movies George Lucas, and in this case Steven Spielberg, worked on, and they didn't give a shit about all that. They wouldn't be sad old people. They'd probably just be the same motherfucker till the day they died.
Even in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, Indy's the same motherfucker. He's just old.
Yeah, and that's the problem.
He's not sad about shit. For some reason, he gets married at the end, but outside of that, he's just a fucking guy who likes digging up weird shit.
Just leave it at that. Make a new canon one with fucking... I mean, you wouldn't touch the kid who played Solo anymore, but, you know, Alden Alrich or whatever.
Yeah.
Grab his ass and just make him put on a
The new
fedora.
Harrison Ford.
Or
He can
there's
play
plenty
all
of people.
Harrison Ford
Ryan
shows.
Gosling, just do it. Ryan Gosling is perfect because he's not that good of an actor. He's not a bad actor, but he just kind of sits there and looks stoic. I guess he might be a little too stoic.
You need someone kind of funny for Indiana Jones.
Right. You need someone with some personality.
A little playful, a little charismatic. I don't know who though, but
I don't fucking know, but you know, do something other than what you did.
well, they were initially way back were grooming Shia LaBeouf to take over, and then everyone was like, no, and so they didn't.
Right. Well, King of the Crystal Skull flopped, and this time they're grooming the girl to take over, but it's just not gonna happen. I know a lot of people were like, the girl's insufferable, but at least she has more personality than like Rey.
She's not insufferable, I wouldn't say. She's just not
That
cool or
interesting.
fun. She's just kind of there.
Does she make the top 100 best Indiana Jones characters? Probably not. But top 100 most memorable? Probably not.
Yeah, she falls behind Sala, who's in this movie for 5 minutes. Marion.
Dude with the fingernails.
The guy with the big guy that gets sucked into the propeller. Short rounds.
Yeah.
Belloc. The guy
Pretty
from
much all the
star of the
villains.
movie.
All the villains, including sexy dominatrix woman from Indiana Jones 4.
Yeah. And then I guess the 12 interdimensional aliens.
That's 12 characters right there.
Yeah, that's. And like the weird Indian people that live in the walls. Of the
Oh
temple and
yeah, the
UFO.
guy from Raiders who's like a dick and like took the idol and gave it to the Nazis.
The guy in Raiders that has the sword that Indiana Jones shoots.
Right.
Yeah.
All more iconic Indiana Jones characters, amongst others. We didn't even really go to Last Crusade. You got Sean Connery. You got his girlfriend who double crosses and triple crosses.
The
Got
Grail
his
Knight.
Grail Knight. That's a good
The
one.
guy who turns into an old person when he drinks out of the Grail.
Yeah. There's a lot of iconic characters. And she's not one of them. But there's some cool shots in this movie, like when he's like horseback riding through the parade. See, you gave this 1 star on Letterboxd, and my argument is I gave Uncharted 1 star as well. But then I think more about it, and it's like at least Uncharted tries to be fun.
Yeah, Uncharted is
But
a
Uncharted
bad
is-
Indiana Jones clone. This is a sad Indiana Jones clone.
Yeah. So I guess the recommendation I kind of brought up to Aiden is like take the script from the first 30 minutes, expand it to 2 hours, recast Harrison Ford, add a hot chick for him to fuck, and you pretty much got a new Indiana Jones movie where he fights Nazis. Disney can do the "we fought Nazis" thing. They can still claim it canon. They just gotta kind of James Bond canon it. No one James Bond people will ass pull the shit out of it to make everything canon.
James Bond has been on like 70 goddamn globe-trotting adventures.
James
that take
Bond-
months and is
James Bond turned 60, and then his next adventure, he was 25. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter. They'll ass pull it to the moon to explain how the first like 20 the first 20 James Bond movies are canon. And some people even go further and try to claim like the Daniel Craig ones, which are blatantly not canon, and like the fucking like never say never again. It's like maybe he just had a very, very, very similar adventure to Thunderball. You know, people will ass pull that. So why can't we just ask? You know, I'm not expecting Disney to do all that. But it's also a period piece. So in 100 years, as long as you can whip together some CGI to make some old-looking cars and like have Harrison Ford, or not Harrison Ford, but Indiana Jones fight some Nazis, like I don't see why you didn't just do that and make it fun. Because we know James Mangold could kind of do the Steven Spielberg like fun pulpy style because he does it for the first 30 minutes.
Yep.
And then suddenly, there's a point in the movie where we see depressing Indiana Jones, and that was the point. And that's kind of where the movie gets depressing. Like, it's a well enough made movie. The script, it's not where I would have taken Indiana Jones. That's kind of my 2 cents.
I think the weirdest part
I
is
also thought Harrison Ford surprisingly probably put more into his performance than most of his performances for the since his
he did
last Ford Assance in like 1990. Now he just shows up and stuff, but I'm talking about like the 1990 Ford Assance where he was like Jack
he looked
Ryan.
a lot less miserable than when he was in Star Wars again.
How miserable do you think he's going to look when he's in the MCU?
It's gonna be real
That's
bad.
Thunderbolt Ross.
It's gonna be real stinky. Yeah, I don't know. I like James Mangold's Wolverine movies, both of them. And one of those is a fun action adventure movie that gets really stupid at the end, and the other is a movie about a sad old man.
It makes
I don't
sense
know
why
what it's
Disney
supposed to
hired him because Disney pitched it as, you did the sad old man Wolverine, now we want you to do the sad old man Indiana Jones.
You should have said
And I don't know if that's what James Mangold wanted to do. I think he wanted to do an Indiana Jones movie so bad that he was willing to just do Logan with Indiana Jones slotted in.
Yep.
I wonder,
it doesn't
because
work nearly as well.
That's also why I kind of wonder if that first like 30 minutes, which other than being creepy CGI, was actually kind of like an Indiana Jones movie and sort of fun.
I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the olive branch James Mangold got for.
He essentially got to make a short film Indiana Jones movie, and then he had to make a depressing feature-length sequel to his short film. And they're just packed together into one movie. That's what this feels like, because it feels like 2 distinct movies from cinematography to everything. And honestly, if Disney just uploaded the first 30 minutes of this as a prequel on Disney Plus, that probably would have gotten a better score. I would have still docked it some points for being creepy CGI. But if they like recasted Harrison Ford and then did that, and then the other 2 hours was separate, I don't think I would be so generous with this movie.
Yeah.
That is a factor. Is I enjoyed the first 30 minutes once I could put myself beyond the fact that it was a creepy deep fake.
Yeah.
Like
First 30
I enjoy
minutes was
watching
pretty
deep
fun.
fake porn of my favorite celebrity, Princess Diana.
Rest in peace.
Princess Diana didn't live long enough to have an opportunity to transition into the porn industry, and it makes me very sad. So I think those deepfakes are respectful and tasteful. Princess Diana deepfake facialized.
But yeah.
Anyways, that might need to get cut. Part of it. Just in case mommy watches.
Yeah.
Or just leave it. I don't care.
Okay. Anyway.
Up to you. Yeah, I mean, my other thoughts. If you're gonna add in like the random cameo from Raiders, the Egyptian dude.
Sala, yeah.
Yeah. Who's a more memorable character than fucking what's her dick? Why not add in more?
Wombat.
They'll be like, I can't drive you to the airport. It would be so hard for me because, you know, I don't want you to do this adventure. Then he's like, well, then I'll call my buddy Short Round.
Yeah.
Just make it the cameo fest.
Short Round finally made his way back to acting. They should have brought him back.
He kind of got famous probably by the time everything was already rolling, so they probably just couldn't. Because he sort of got famous again, like right at like a year ago, so it was probably too late.
Yeah. They could have just slotted him into some CGI.
You know, at this point, Disney's kicking themselves. They didn't just make him him and Indy have like a swashbuckling adventure where Indiana Jones is depressed because his son Mud died in Vietnam. But you know, they wish they could have replaced the girl lady with Short Round after Everything Everywhere All at Once, and him winning like Best Actor, and him being like, yeah, I really want to do another Indiana Jones movie, please. Let me do another.
I don't
Indiana
really
movie,
understand the Mott dying in Vietnam thing. This might be a nitpick, but he was supposed to be like 18 in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So he joined Vietnam when he was like 30 to make his dad mad? Seems like something an 18-year-old would do.
Right. Well, Sean Connery had a picture in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and it's like, I'm sad my dad is dead, but I'm over it. And then he had fun for the rest of the movie. But Mud, I noticed there was a picture of Mud enlisted, but I don't think that was like a Photoshop of Shia LaBeouf. And I don't know if they were just so bitter or just assumed Shia LaBeouf would cause a hissy fit. So they just, I don't know. Shia LaBeouf seems like an entirely different person than his little renaissance that he had for like 3 years between 2007 and 2010.
Yeah.
And then there's probably smoked meth a couple times Shia LaBeouf that came after.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we're at with Shia at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have much more to add. I will generously say the movie is okay, but here's what I'll say. I guess this is more of like a recommend part. So Aiden, do you recommend Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny?
No. I mean, no, I don't. There's a couple parts I like. There's a lot I don't like. The opening's pretty cool, and this movie will eventually be free on Disney Plus. Definitely do not go see this in theaters because it was hella boring and really long. Connor, would you recommend Dial of Destiny?
Similarly, no. What I would recommend doing is watch. I wasn't gonna say pirated. I was gonna say if you have Disney Plus or Paramount Plus, because I think it'll come out on both. Watch the first 30 minutes as like a fun Indiana Jones short film. Bring a vomit bag because you'll get a little distracted and motion sick looking at that fucking Indiana Jones deep fake. But the first 30 minutes was a fun exercise in James Mangold trying to make an Indiana Jones movie, and it was pretty good. And then the last 2 hours was excessively mediocre. So that's what I'd recommend. And due to the weird fact that Paramount owns part of Indiana Jones, but Lucasfilm also owns part of Indiana Jones, like Paramount owns distribution rights or something forever, but Disney owns the character. This was distributed by Paramount, even though
I saw that.
I thought that was really weird.
You know, this is
Disney, Paramount, Lucasfilm co-production.
This is the second Indiana Jones movie in a row to start with Indy in a trunk. I don't have any commentary about that. It's weird.
Yeah. So I guess Aiden, you already recommended it or didn't recommend it.
Yeah.
But I had a question.
Okay.
I suppose, just to put the debate to rest, better or worse than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull?
I don't know. I haven't seen Kingdom of the Crystal Skull in a long time. They're both weird CGI nightmares. The first 30 minutes of this is probably better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and the back half is, or the back like 4/5 is definitely more boring than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. It's a better made movie, but a good portion of it is just so boring. And Kingdom of the Crystal Skull has like weird comedic action humor, something ironically. I don't know. It's I'm gonna say better, but more boring, I guess. Better made, more boring. What about you?
Yeah.
How does it stack?
I was basically going to say the exact same thing. The first 30 minutes is better Indiana Jones adventuring than we got out of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. But, I mean, you have the deep fake issue, and then the back half is better directed, perhaps better written than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but far and away more boring. Like, Mud is a worse character than Girl Lady.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'd rather watch Mud because it's Shia LaBeouf being funny.
Mud swinging through the trees
Mud,
with the
yeah,
monkeys.
I kept calling him Mud.
Swinging through the trees with the monkeys.
And then I also want to note this is the second franchise that lightly mentions that they killed Shia LaBeouf off screen because Shia LaBeouf's a crazy person now and won't come back.
Yeah, what's happened in Transformers?
Yeah, Transformers did the same thing, so.
They also abandoned him for the 5th movie.
Yep.
I don't know, they abandoned him for the 4th,
But the 5th movie is the one where they explicitly said he's dead.
right.
Moderately, in like one scene, they briefly touch on it. This one kind of touches on it like 3 times, but
Yeah.
it kind of dances around it except for the one scene where he's sad about his son being dead.
Yeah, I forgot they just don't address it in the 4th movie, and then like Malcolm McDowell's talking to the clock robot.
He's like, my son, my great nephew, Sam Witwicky, is dead. My suburban great nephew, who had no idea that he was like the fucking king of England, second in line.
And lived in America.
He's dead.
he lived in LA for some
With
reason.
his obese parents in a fucking family home. Yeah. Well, that was our review of Indiana Jones.
Yeah, that was. God.
Yeah, I guess I'll upload this today. This video, I feel like at least this movie really helped our Lego Indiana Jones video that came out basically by coincidence.
Yeah, just timing happened to line up pretty well.
290 already for Indy at 9 days.
I have an idea for Indiana Jones 6.
Yeah, what's up?
We'll think about it. We're now at a pretty bad imbalance for the indie movies. 3 of them are, every other one has to be fight.